Hi, everybody. It's Amanda, host of Life Uncensored Live, and we have a great episode for you today. This next guest is near and dear to my heart. I don't know if she knows this, but she holds a very special place in my heart. I've known her since elementary school, first grade to be specific. She was the first friend that I made in my elementary school when my family moved. And I've loved her ever since. She's been so great, a great friend over the years, a great person, and she has a great story to tell. I know her as Jeni Simas, but she is most recently Jeni Simas-Layte. Make sure that I pronounced that right. I think I did. Jeni Simas-Layte, the Intimacy Alley. She's a certified relationship, intimacy, and sex coach and consultant and trainee. I'm sorry, and has trained, I'm messing that up, and a trained professional cuddle therapist. She not only provides one on one coaching for women and group coaching in person in Baltimore, Maryland, but also she does this virtually, which nowadays after COVID, that's a big deal if you ask me. She is the host of a podcast, Story Time with the Intimacy Alley. I'm going to ask her later on to give you all the handles and where you can follow and check out her episodes because they're pretty hot, pretty spicy. So I want you to do that. She is also a special needs mom. She's a former stage actor, a writer, and a homemaker. And she incorporates her own life lessons about surviving sexual assault, parenting a nonverbal autistic son, and learning or unlearning societal norms that affected her self esteem and body image. She incorporates all those things into her coaching sessions and her coursework. So I want you guys to give a nice warm welcome to my good, dear friend, Jeni Simas-Layte.
Hello.
Hi, Jenny. Did I say it right, Layte?
So you got my last name right, but my company is the Intimacy Ally, like a
Oh, Ally.
friend,
I
like a
keep putting
friend.
the E in it, Allie.
I
I
know. It's
apologize.
okay. It could be Allie, like a little alley cat, that's kinda sexy. I don't know, but
Jack around.
right? But I'm trying to be people's friend, surrounding sex and intimacy. So that was where the
Maybe
ally
that's
part
why I
came
think.
from.
Yeah, maybe
Yeah.
that's where yeah. Okay. I love it. Okay. Intimacy ally.
Yep.
Intimacy ally.
Yep.
Intimacy ally. Say that three times
Yeah.
fast, folks.
So yeah, I'm so happy to be here. That was such a sweet introduction. Y'all have to know that it is mutual. Like Amanda is so fucking cool and so special to me. I don't want to share our personal business too much, I guess, but we have been there for each other in a way that other people really can't understand yet because of the life
Yeah,
experiences that we've had. So
absolutely.
and I appreciate the shit out of you. Yeah.
I appreciate you, my Sagittarius sister.
That's right, that's right.
I love it. I
So,
love
yeah.
it. I'm so glad you're here. I listen. This is Life Uncensored. Listen, guys. Jenny said to me, "So, is there anything that I should stay away from when we're having this conversation?" I said, "The title is Life Uncensored." So, uh, make sure that the kids are not listening. Have your earbuds on. Don't be listening in the car with the kids. Um,
Right, right.
if your grandma's there and you think she might clutch your pearls, you might want to pop in those earbuds because
Mhm,
this is
mhm.
for the grown and sexy. Like, this is going to be some real raw conversation about what Jenny does and how she got there and all that good stuff. So I've given you the forewarning. You've had a few moments forewarning. I mean, I would like to hope that the title of this episode kind of gave you a little hint as well. So with that said, my girl Jenny's riding shotgun today on this journey of Life Uncensored, navigating adulthood one episode at a time. And we're just going to hop right into this, okay? I want to first start talking about how we got into this journey of the intimacy ally, becoming a certified relationship and intimacy and sex coach and cuddle therapist. How many people didn't know that there was such thing as a cuddle therapist? I didn't know. So can you just talk to us a little bit about
Me
that
before I
journey?
started it, yeah. So, So my marriage ended. My marriage ended a week, maybe 2 before the lockdown for COVID. Like, it had been
Wow.
bumpy as fuck for a long time, but it went kaput completely before the lockdown. And there was a lot of anger and there was a lot of uncertainty. My ex and I, who have 2 children, one of whom has severe special needs, who is nonverbal on the autism spectrum, uh, we are much better people and parents not living together.
Mm.
So it turned out to be a blessing and a half that we did explode the way that we did. And who knows what terrible shit we would have said or done to each other if we had had to live together through the lockdown, right?
Wow. How many people, like what you're saying, hadn't thought of it in that way? Like how
Yeah.
much worse it could have been if you had to be locked down together while it was
Yeah.
already bumpy. Yeah.
Right. And, I'm sure there were a lot of people who had to, and
Mm.
yeah, I don't like to imagine what it would have been like, honestly. I am I'm happy now that we ended it when we did. At the time, though, it was a motherfucker,
Mm.
and I was broken down. I had lost my mom. I had lost my aunt, who was like my second mom. My father had passed away like years before, and I just felt really alone. Just
Mm.
felt really alone doing this, raising these kids by myself. I know a lot of other ladies who have done that with far less resources. So uh, I was both unlucky and lucky in that when I lost those women in my life, they left behind some money that
Mm.
I could have to support me and my kids the way that they would have if they were like physically there to like take us in, you know?
Gotcha. Gotcha.
Yeah. So not everybody gets that.
Not
And
everybody
I
gets
totally
that.
understand that.
Hmm.
And I accept and respect the privilege that I had that it ended up that way. So
Hmm.
that meant that when I first started going back to work, because, the first thing a lawyer is going to tell you is if you don't have a job and you're getting divorced, get one.
Mm.
And the way that it had been was I was a military wife. That means you move around so much. You could work at like the PX. You could work, somewhere on post, maybe be, a cashier. But when you have a kid with severe special needs, anything that you could make in a job like that, you would need time and a half of that just to pay for childcare.
Right. We're not even talking about actual living expenses.
Yeah.
Wow.
So there was no point in me working. It was better for me to stay home. So I did. And I stayed home for 11 years as a military autism mom,
Mm.
right? So then this bomb got dropped on me. I don't love you. I never loved you. I've been faking it to make it for 11 years and it's fucking killing me.
Mm.
And it was like, oh, all right. Well, I guess
Mm.
I'd better reassess what the hell I'm going to do in life. So at first, I started working in the school districts as an aide in autism classrooms, and that did not go well. For a couple of reasons. One, my son's school was very strict on their COVID exposure. So if he got exposed to anyone, then he got sent home for 5 days and couldn't go back to school, which meant
Mm.
I could not go to work for an entire week.
Mm. So that
So,
that included if there was a kid at school, like if he got exposed to a kid who got exposed.
mhm, yeah,
Wow.
he was home like every other week for like a
Wow.
week. How was I supposed to keep a job?
Right. Right.
Right.
Mm.
And if I had paid someone to watch him, it would have exceeded the $11 an hour I was making as a
My
special needs aide. Yeah.
gosh.
Mhm. So there's that. Keep in mind, yeah, I have a college degree. I had a bachelor's, and this is what I could do because I had
Mhm.
been out of work for so long. Like this,
Mhm.
we're not going to get too into it, but it's part of like what bothers me about people who are like, pull yourself up by your bootstraps. It's like sometimes that is like a ridiculous thing to say to somebody.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
so I
Mm.
tried that, and that didn't work out. So then I was actually talking to my ex's cousin, and she was like, you have no problem talking to anyone about everything. You will talk to people about the deep, dark, dirty, and you will talk to people about the things that make them feel terrible about themselves, and you will totally shift it, and not in a creepy way and not in a clinical way. So you should be a sex coach. And I was like, that's a fucking thing. And turns out it is. So I researched programs and I found the Sexual Health Alliance. They're out of Denver, Colorado. And they just had so much information and so many cool people working for them. Like, you remember Loveline from like back in the day, like when we were in high
Yes.
school or whatever? Okay, so it's not Dr. Drew, but it's Dr. Donahue who took over. Like, he's
Okay.
on the board at Sexual Health Alliance. He signed my certificate. Like,
Wow.
yeah. So, like, the
Wow.
information that they're sharing is legit. Like, they get you in touch with people who run their own porn companies who are also LCSWC like certified therapists. You
Wow.
know,
Wow. Now
they
break that acronym down for us that
oh,
don't
okay.
know.
A licensed clinical social worker. Yeah, isn't that what
Oh,
it's called? Yeah, a licensed clinical social worker dash counselor. Okay. So
okay.
that's like 5 years after you get your master's in social work and like 3,000 hours or something of clinical training, then you can become
Hmm.
an LCSWC. It is a therapist.
Wow.
Therapists can be licensed professional counselors, that's LPC, or licensed marriage and family therapists, that's LMFT, or licensed clinical social workers. Like that's what most of them are. And those are the people who can get certified as sex therapists. So
Wow.
I'm not a sex therapist, I'm a coach. So I get more wiggle room than they do. They have an overseeing board. But now I'm out to become one. So there's that too. I'm going back to school in September to get my
That's
master's in
amazing.
social work, like my mother before me. Except she did like adoption and hospice counseling and stuff like that. I'm going in to be the next Dr. Ruth. So that's what's up.
And there it is.
Yep.
You're little like Dr. Ruth, so there might be
I
some.
know, right? Little Jewish, can't stop talking about yeah, right.
I love it. I
That's what's
freaking
up.
love
That's what's up.
it.
Mhm. So I went through the training, and during the training, it was like I had already met Zach, and we can get into that if you want. But during the training, it was supposed to take like 2 years, I think. I did it in 15 months because I was so ready for this. And I got my certificate last year in June. And right after that, I started doing classes. And while I was getting my certificate, I met some really, really cool characters, sex workers, surrogate partners, um, other pleasure professionals who are just out there just trying to teach people that pleasure is not only okay, it is a right.
Hmm.
Um, and in doing that, I met the CEO of Cuddlist.com and added in professional cuddling to my sex coaching. Yep.
Wow. So, what is professional cuddling? What's
Okay.
a cuddlist?
So Cuddlist.com is like trademark, trademark, trademark. There's other companies that you can go
Oh, okay.
through. There's Cuddlist.com, Cuddle Sanctuary. Like, and if anybody's interested in any of this information, Amanda, you can totally send them my email. It's fine.
Okay.
I love telling people about the profession of cuddle therapy. Some people like to call it platonic touch therapy, as to not confuse it with anything else.
Okay.
But so cuddle therapy is really about shoring up your boundaries. Um, there are some people who are just seeking cuddle therapy to have that like touch deprivation or touch
Mm.
starvation served.
Mm.
So you just need like think about people who are growing up. How many hugs do they need in order to be successful? Um, I saw a thing once that was like 4 hugs a day day to just get your bare minimum met, 8 hugs a day for maintenance, and 12 hugs a day for growth. Yeah, I got hugged a lot as a kid. Like,
Mhm.
I still turned out fucking weird, but I got hugged a lot as a kid, like by people who were supposed to hug me. Um, but
Right.
there are a
Let's be
lot of
very
people
clear
who
about
didn't.
that. By people who were supposed to
Right.
hug you.
Yeah, like my parents were very affectionate,
Yeah.
they were very affectionate and very kind and open people, right? I got the hugs that I was supposed to. I just got extra touching that was not fucking wanted. That's all right. We'll
Mm,
get there. We'll get there.
mhm,
But
mhm.
so there's a lot of people in the world who didn't get that. There's a
Yeah.
lot of people in the world who still aren't getting it. The Surgeon General, before the one that we have now, put out an entire report on the epidemic of loneliness in the US
Mm,
and talked about how people do not interact and are absolutely touch starved.
okay.
And so cuddling fulfills that need in such a way that you don't have to go out and like throw yourself at someone or in a relationship that you're not ready for or that you don't want just to get that need met.
Mm,
And at the same time, it teaches you how to have effective boundaries if that's something that has never come up for you. Like
wow.
a lot of people come up in a world where they're just set to be people pleasers and to always say yes when they don't know how to have a safe no. That's something that my mentor from Cuddlist.com, who also is the person who creates their curriculum, Michelle Renee, shout out. Um, she is the human connection coach. And she said, you cannot have an authentic yes without a safe no.
Mm,
And that knocked me on my ass
mhm.
because for many, many years, I did not have a safe no. No was dangerous. No
Wow.
meant bad things could happen.
Okay. Okay. And there's
Yeah.
so many others out here that share that experience, that they have that same experience.
Yeah.
You
Yeah.
know, it's I appreciate you like breaking down what that means because when I'm speaking for myself, I'd assume there's others that would think the same way. When I hear cuddle list, I think, oh, that's so cute. You go and you hug people and I imagine a couple of people and sitting on a couch cuddled up in a blankie.
Right.
That's what I imagine, but it's so much deeper than that.
Yeah. And don't get me wrong, it can be that. It can absolutely be that. It can be you just really, really want somebody to play with your hair and they haven't done that in forever. And you're not in a relationship. Your sister doesn't live nearby, and you need that. Okay. Go have a $60 session and get that done, you know?
Gotcha.
But if there's more, if there's touch deprivation to starvation,
Mm.
which is serious,
Hmm.
it's more serious than anybody wants to admit. And I just think there would be a lot more well balanced, mentally healthy, emotionally satisfied people if this were a more accepted thing. The thing is, when you're doing it, people kind of treat you like a sex worker. Even if you're not doing like anything erotic, it's very hush
Yeah.
hush. It is quite
Mm.
hush hush. Nobody wants that, or at least none of the people who worked with me, nobody wants that like on their credit card statement. They're like,
So
"Hey, I'll pay you in
it's
cash.
still
I'll pay you in
taboo.
cash." Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Okay.
Absolutely. We're trying so hard to normalize it.
Hmm.
I know that Keely Shoup, the CEO of Cuddlist, spoke at the ASECT conference this year in Chicago. That is the American Association of Sex Educators, Counselors, and Therapists. Talking about body work and cuddling and the benefits and how it can speed along like classical therapy results.
Oh wow.
Like if you do this in addition to going to a talk therapist,
Hmm.
then you can have these sessions where you get this full on emotional release from having the body work done, from having being held, you know, having that
Hmm.
touch need met. and then
Mm-hmm.
you can go and talk to your therapist about it, and the therapist and your cuddler can talk to each other. That triadic model is very, very cool.
Mm. Wow, that's fascinating. And it's actually pretty cool, actually.
Yeah, I
Wow.
hope it takes off. I hope more people
Yeah.
become accepting of it as a modality that,
Yeah.
like, shouldn't be feared. Yeah.
Yeah, and it's not weird, and it's not. It doesn't have to be taboo.
No, I hope people will take off with it. Yeah.
Yeah, that's pretty cool. All right, so we went from being a stay-at-home military wife to discovering that there was such thing as sex coaches and a cuddle therapist in a matter of what, 2, 3 years?
I discovered those things, within yeah, yeah. God, now that I'm thinking about it, yeah, it was like 2 years, and, yeah, wow, and in the middle of all that, I also had my own mental health struggles, you know?
Mm,
I,
mhm.
I put myself in patient. Do you want me to explain that, or,
Yeah, by all
like
means, whatever you want to
okay.
share.
Yeah, so, I had been suffering so, like, my husband and I, we split, like, in the spring of 2020. By the summer of 2021, after those 2 jobs had failed and I hadn't found sex coaching yet, um, I was really, really down on myself. I was like, "What have I done? I'll never be able to support my children the way that I should. I failed them as a mother. Uh, my daughter is going to have confusion about relationships forever because I left her dad." All that shit that
Mm,
goes through your head when
mhm.
you've ended this relationship. I mean, on top of being married to this dude for 11 years, like, I had been in love with him probably for 9 years before that.
Mm, wow.
It was half my life that I was like, into him, and to hear it was never shared, and who knows? Like, he could have just been me. I mean, whatever. Like, we'll never get the full answer on that.
Right. Him and God
But
know.
exactly. But to hear that, like, it totally flipped my world. Like, I just started second guessing everything. I was like, maybe I'm not a good friend. Maybe I'm not a good mother. Maybe I'm not a good person. Maybe I
Mm,
don't deserve good things. And that's why this happened. And I fell into the biggest depression I've ever experienced. Like, I had heard people say I'm depressed and I'm suicidal, and I had never understood it until then.
wow. Wow.
Like, the only times that I functioned were when my kids were home.
And
If
was
my
that
kids
like
were
you
not
had
home and
to
awake,
force yourself to do
yeah,
that?
yeah.
Wow.
Other than that, I was a piece of stone on the couch. I was sleeping like 16 hours a day.
Mm,
I had a
mm,
roommate, thank goodness I had a roommate who was helping and making sure that, like, I got up and did stuff with my kids, but I
wow.
was not okay.
Wow. Wow. Again,
So
something else that has been taboo to say out loud. It's getting
mhm.
better now, but in
Oh,
in
yeah.
where we grew up, saying
Mhm.
you're not okay wasn't a thing. You slap on the
No.
smile and you
Mhm.
push through. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I had a mom who was like a social worker, therapist. I never told her any of the shit that was, like, going on with me. Like, why did I not feel that was okay? It was different
Yeah.
time,
Yeah.
totally different attitude, right? So, when I had this go on, I had some amazing friends who tried so hard to get me through it. They were like, "Make sure you go to the therapist," and I was in therapy. They were like, "Make sure you go to therapy, you gotta get up. Do you need me to go to the grocery store for you?" My one
Mm,
girlfriend would come from Annapolis to go to the grocery store for me in Catonsville.
mm.
Like, seriously, that's like an hour,
That's
and
love.
she would do it once a week to make sure that me and the kids were okay.
Yeah.
And she would say, "You're not drinking too much, you're not smoking too much," because I was still a smoker back then. Uh, Are you showering? Do you need to shower while I'm here? I just want to make sure you're doing that. I had a friend who I had reconnected with because of the divorce, actually. Totally funny
Mm.
story. We'll have to get into that another time. But he was checking on me all the time. Um, my neighbors across the street, I hadn't known them all that long, but now they're like my best friends. My kids are best friends with their kids, but they were checking on me too,
Wow.
just to make sure. So there was this support system that was there that was like, hey, we see you and we see you're not getting better.
Mm.
Like, and we are not professionals and we think you need to talk to somebody who is. And when I was talking to my therapist, she was like, here's your option. You can go into Shepherd Pratt on your own, or I can call a crisis team because the
Mm.
things you're saying to
Wow.
me are worrisome.
Wow.
So that was my choice. So
Wow.
my ex was already in another state because he was still in the military. So I had to call the fucking Red Cross and be like, hi, can you get him back here to take care of our kids? Because I got to go to the hospital.
Wowzer.
Hmm.
Wowzer.
Yeah. And then I went the next day and I was there for 2 weeks. And every day my daughter would call or I would call her and she would cry and ask
Mm.
when I was coming home.
Mm-hmm.
And that is a big thing I think people need to hear
Yeah.
because when women go inpatient, that is what fucking happens.
Yeah. Yeah.
If men go inpatient, they get to heal and they
Mm.
get to rest
Yeah. Yeah.
and they get to
Um,
think about
not as a mom.
themselves.
Not as a
No,
mom. Mm.
she was like, she could, and I hope she's okay with me sharing. I don't want to get too in detail
Of
with
course.
her business, but she was very personally hurt that I had to go take care of myself so that I wouldn't kill myself.
Mm. Hmm. And then,
Right.
especially being that young, she
So,
only has so much understanding of what was happening at that
oh yeah, and
time.
she didn't know exactly why I was in there.
It,
She
right,
didn't know how bad
exactly.
it
She just knew
was.
mommy was gone.
Right. Exactly. So,
Hmm.
and I wasn't going to tell her, like, mommy doesn't want to live anymore, because it
Right.
wasn't even that. Because when you're like that, or at least in my experience, the suicidal ideation is not that you legitimately want to die. It is that you want to stop living the way that you are.
Yeah. And those are two totally different
So,
things.
yeah, like
Hmm.
the dying is to escape the pain of living the life that you are.
Hmm. Hmm.
The constant disappointment, the
Hmm.
constant lashing out at yourself that your brain has been cycling through.
Hmm.
So I was there for 2 weeks and then I was just like, this is not going to change my circumstance. Being in here is not good for me. I need to get back to my kids. So I'm out. So if you're thinking that inpatient is going to fix everything, I'm here to tell you it will not. You will not sleep because they come and check on you every 3 hours to make sure that you're not hurting yourself. For me, I got high blood pressure from the salty ass food in the hospital.
Ooh.
I had never had a problem with that before.
Oh my goodness.
Um, what else? And I mothered people in there. That's what I did. Instead of actually taking the time to like think about my situation, I mothered people. But there was the activities director was who was the most influential on me because he was this guy who was just kind of like a coach and he made us have he had us make like mandalas of what we want our lives to be about, and he took us outside to do activities and he talked to us about music and he took us to the little gym area.
Hmm.
He was the most influential part. Not getting on medicine, not talking to the psychiatrist who saw you as a number. This guy who was in here doing the work,
Hmm.
saying, look, if you're worried about money, go out and make some money, girl. That's not
Mm.
enough reason to die.
Mm.
Yeah. If you're worried about your ex and you interacting, then always make sure you have somebody else around. That's what you should
Hmm.
do. Yeah.
Hmm.
He was very practical and that really helped me get out of my funk in there.
Okay. Okay.
And so I left there. And it was so I tried another job as an aide in a different county.
Okay.
Also didn't work out because of the thing with the COVID and my son. And then it was that January that I decided to get online and do some dating because it had been 2 years since, my life had fallen apart, and I had slept with a couple of guys, and, that's all well and good, but no one who was like, "Oh, I can't wait to be your girlfriend," or whatever.
Okay.
Um,
Okay.
just a couple of trysts, really. It was fun. One got very weird, but that's okay. It happens. Uh it was like I was clingy at first, and then he was really clingy, and I was like, "Ugh, all of this feels icky." Ugh. Um, the other one was lovely. He was there for just what I needed and then gone, and I was like, "Thank you. Thank you for knowing your role." Um, but I went online, and it was weird. It was super weird. I dated online a little bit, like, when MySpace first came out. Like,
Wow. Are you really
that
aging us?
yes, I am. Yes, I am. That was how I found some dudes before I got married, was MySpace, okay? I dated a couple of weirdos off of MySpace, right? I had never done, like, online, like, hardcore online dating, right? And I jumped in head first. I went on Hinge, in case anybody's curious what app it was. And I had my settings set to, I think it was like 22 years old to like 52 years old or something like that. Like, I was just like, sure, why not?
Mhm.
Uh, my parents were 22 years apart. So I was like,
Yeah.
whatever,
Yeah.
things can happen. It's fine. It's fine. I did. Um, I got so many dick pics. So many dick pics. And I got so many dick pics that, like, my best friend, who is a dude, was like, "Here's a funny game. The next time you get a dick pic, you should send another dick pic back to that guy and then be like, 'See how it feels?'" And so I started playing that game, which led to a lot of guys not wanting to talk to me anymore. Shocker.
I'm
I was
so
like, "See
shocked.
how it feels?" Like, it's so invasive. It's just like looking
Okay,
at you.
okay, but I got a question. Were any of them look worthy? Like, oh, that one's a pretty one.
Mm. Mhm.
Yeah, yeah. I mean,
Yeah.
you know,
Yeah.
you know,
Yeah.
if there's at least a
Like,
little
if I
fun out
liked
of
it,
it.
then they got a tit pic in return. I was like, "Here you go. Yeah." The girls have come out. "Hey, I've had a couple of" hey.
That's a pretty
Um,
one.
mhm, right? It's so curvy. Yeah. Um,
Oh gosh.
so there was that, and, the guys that I was getting, like, wow. Like, my experience online dating was what made me create Making Online Dating Magical, because there are so many of us getting back into this in our 40s, 50s, 60s, and it is it is the wild, wild west on these fucking dating sites, I swear.
And there and
Oh
the
my
folks who are
god.
getting back into it is for all different reasons.
Mhm. Mhm.
Yeah.
Yeah, and if you haven't done it this way, it's so fast and aggressive.
Oh my.
Like I said, I was in love with my ex for like 9 years. Like, unrequited love. "Oh, I'm just your best friend. Like we were in a fucking rom-com or something. Like, he'll eventually get to the fat little girl. Yeah. It's
Oh my
Bridgerton.
gosh.
So so anyway, like, to do it in this, like, speed dating, light speed online setting where if you don't fucking respond, then that motherfucker has moved on. He's
Oh.
moved on, you know?
Oh well.
Or if you respond in any way other than they are expecting, gone, ghosted,
Oh wow.
was
Okay.
never here. Right.
Okay.
So, and then there's some guys who would absolutely prey on women like me in the slimiest of ways. Like, I'm really into non-traditionally attractive older women. And I'm like, cool. When you find one, have fun with her ass. Are you calling me
Oh,
those things? Fuck you, dude.
right. What?
Yeah. was like, get the fuck out of here. Like, is this how you flirt with women? Because that's why you're
Wow.
single. That is why you're single, honey llama.
Wow.
Yeah.
Right. That's why you're on this
So,
app.
that's why you're on this app and not knee deep in pussy right now. Sorry, but that's what's up. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, those were fun. And so I changed my settings a little bit. I made it
Okay.
25. I made it 25 was like the lowest I would go. I was like, your brain should be fully developed at 25. There we go. There we go. Yeah, we'll do that. And this one guy kept coming up and he was on top of a mountain, like going like this on top of a mountain. And I was like, hiking. Gross. Because my ex used to bark at me when we would hike because he was in the fucking military and I'm a short, fat chick with a drop foot and like neurological, issues in my leg from surgery. Right. So I'm like huffing and puffing behind. Oh, and I was a smoker too then, heavy smoker. So I'm like trying to keep up. And he's like, God, why did you even come with me? Like just being a real ass. So seeing somebody on top of a mountain, I was like, yeah, fuck you. And just like swiped right by him. I was
No
like,
thanks.
no, thank you. I deal with that without that forever. Forever. I never want to hike again. Never. Says the girl that just went to like West Virginia and
But
like
that's neither
hiked
here
a
nor
bunch.
there. Okay.
So anyway, so then I had him come up again and I was like, no. And I was swipe past him. And after like the fourth or fifth guy who I had started kind of having one of these little online mini relationships with, who had just failed horribly to measure up to be someone that I would ever introduce to my children. I was like, all right, that's fucking it. I'm making a list. I'm checking it twice. It's going to be what I will put up with, what I will never, or what I'm looking for, and what I will never put up with again.
Yeah.
And I made that list and I did a little standing in the moon ritual because I'm a witchy woman and was like, this is what's up. And if he doesn't fit this, I don't want to hear from him. And this guy on the top of the mountain sent me a, hey, what are you up to message. And I started typing back to him. And it turned out he was like a mechanic who was working on tractor trailers. And he had these other pictures that I had failed to look at. And he was like in a cowboy hat and with a dog and just like looked really cute with the dog. And he looked like a fucking Viking. He looked like King Bjorn Ironside on fucking Vikings. So I was like, all right, cowboy, mechanic, Viking, sure, let's talk. And we did. And we hit it the fuck off. And that was that. Like I canceled my app 2 weeks later, I think.
Wow.
And yeah, so it took me 6 weeks to find him. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
And here we are now, Mrs.
Here we are now.
AT.
Yeah. That's why my last name is different because of that Viking.
I love that. And you know what? I love that for you because in the in-between time of all of that crap that was going on, even with your despair and you beating yourself up and all those things, the Jeni that I grew up with, who relentlessly is an optimist, was still in there. And you still had that hope in there. You still, that even if it was being overshadowed by all the crap and the crud, that Jeni was still in there. And you came out shining on the other side. So now you've got this business, your podcast, you've got this great relationship, marriage now. And he loves your kids, and your kids love him. And it's all the things that come straight out of a rom-com. Thank you very much, ma'am.
And he's 16 years younger than me, so I'm living up to the family tradition
that part
of marrying people who are wildly different ages.
And And let me ask you, was it seamless, or was it awkward or hard to blend that family? Because we
So
talk about blended families all the time, right? But when you talk
mhm,
about blending a family that has a special needs child involved, that
mhm.
has an ex that's military, like there's so many different dynamics in your specific situation that's not the traditional, oh yes, we have a blended family. So how did you find that to be? Was it easy, hard, what?
So I wanna get back really quick to one thing that you said about, like,
Okay.
relentless optimism or whatever, because it struck in my mind. Um, my best friend Matt, he's a big hippie, and so he loves Twiddle. It's this hippie band, and they have this song, and he was like, "You're like that Mahali song. You're like the great white light." And I was like, "What?" And yes, we had been drinking. And he was like, "But," he was like, "if I could write something on your headstone, it would be Jeni. She loved relentlessly." Because there's a
Hmm.
line in the song that says, "So many good things come to those who love relentlessly."
Hmm. That is you.
And that fucking sticks with me.
And I agree with
That
him.
sticks with me.
Shout out to Matt.
Yeah, right? Maddie. Um, so that sticks with me. When we had to blend it, of course, there were growing pains. My daughter was like so against this at first. She loves Zach. She loves Zach now, but he
Hmm.
was the first guy that I had them meet. You know, they
Yes.
didn't meet like the the hookups. You know,
Yeah, of course. Yeah.
and with that came, why aren't we just enough? Why isn't it just enough for you to have me and my brother? Why? You know?
Hmm.
So that was rough. When my ex was still out of state, it was a lot. It was a lot just getting back and forth, but now he is in the state, so that's not as terrible, and he is actually not in the military anymore, so that actually made that easier.
Okay.
So, my kids have all 3 of their parents,
Hmm.
and we are all about, the kids.
Hmm.
Of course, it did not start that way. Of course, there are still times where I have great animosity toward him, but I try to keep that from my kids. I don't
Hmm.
like them. I don't want them to see it. There are
Hmm.
things that I want them to see people work through, like, I want them to see me and their stepdad argue and then be able to come together after. Like, I
Hmm.
want that to be normal. You're supposed
Hmm.
to fight. You're
Hmm.
supposed to have conversations and speak up when you don't like things that are happening, and this
Hmm.
is all, like, relationship coaching. Like, that's what that
Hmm.
is,
No,
you know?
absolutely, absolutely, and it's okay for. I agree with that. It's okay that your kids see healthy, and I put that word in the front on purpose. Healthy disagreements,
Mhm.
because that's life.
Right.
And you can't go through. My fear is, because I have an ex who avoids any type of conflict, confrontation at all cost, and
Mhm.
that is just not who I am. I am a,
Mhm.
we're gonna deal with this so I can move on with my life type of person.
Mhm.
And
Right.
that sort of upbringing, letting your kids see that it's okay to, I don't like the color blue the way you do. That's okay. It's okay
Mhm.
to disagree, as long as you come back and you work through it. And that doesn't mean that now you agree, or now you're going with what the other person said. It just says, I understand where you're coming from. You understand where I'm coming from. We've allowed each other to hear both sides,
Mhm.
and explain and articulate those things. But we're good. It's okay to
Right.
disagree once or twice here and there. And I
Mhm.
think so many people miss that. And I think our generation, we didn't, it wasn't a
Stuff it down.
lot of that.
Stuff it down.
It wasn't a
Stuff it down.
lot.
Take it and stuff it down, right?
Mhm,
Like,
mhm.
suppress it, suppress it, drink it,
Yes,
drink it, suppress it, do some other kinds of
yes.
drugs. Go and, like, break
Do
glass at,
something.
like, a glass breaking place, but for fuck's sake, don't talk about it.
Yeah,
Don't
because
talk
that's
about it.
crazy. Who
Yeah.
does that?
Mhm.
Yeah, and
Mhm.
I am
Right.
so polar opposite. I've always been the black sheep, or at least I've always felt like that I've always been the black sheep. That, or the rebel, that I'm always going to go against that type of norm because it doesn't feel good, right?
Yeah.
So yeah,
It
I'm going to
doesn't
say the
feel
thing.
good.
It's going to be uncomfortable at first, and it's going to be hard at first. But then once you crack through the hard part, then you're done, and you don't have to deal with it anymore. So
Mhm.
I just love that you said that you're okay with your kids seeing that. Yeah, sometimes we argue,
Right.
but we also come back from it, and it's healthy arguing. It's not nothing
Yeah,
egregious
and
or
you're not
crazy or abusive or
no
anything like
one's
that.
name calling, no one's calling the other person stupid for having that opinion. No one is being insulting or degrading. So if they are, well, then that's a whole other issue. And
Mhm.
that means you probably
Mhm.
need someone to mediate in those conversations. And
Mhm.
those conversations don't have to happen in front of your kids
Mhm.
because those are
Absolutely.
mean and those are showing them a poor example, right?
Mhm. Right. And then you
But
get a
if,
call home from school about how your kid was bullying somebody, and you're like,
right,
"What? Oh my gosh."
mine, nah, mine, nah. No, so, it is important, and that was actually a lot of the Jan Haldane training that I got to do the relationship coaching.
Okay.
I took her courses for that, and that was quite lovely. Just kind of hearing that we need to make space for arguing, and
Yeah.
arguing is a natural part of being in relationship with people, and that doesn't have to be limited to romantic. It's your
Yeah.
friendships. It's your interactions with your coworkers.
Mhm.
Like you've got to be able to talk to each other with respect and keep it
Mhm.
there.
Mhm.
And if you can't, well then that's maybe a time that you should walk away.
Yeah, absolutely. I love that. Listen, we're going to take a quick break, and we're going to be back with more from my good friend Jenny. So stay tuned. We'll be back in just 1 minute. You're going to come back with us, right, Jenny?
Mhm.
All right. We'll be back, guys.
What's up, guys? This is the Misfit, and I'm back now debuting my backpack drop. Hey, what's up, guys? If you're ready to get your backpacks, you can go on the misfitllc.net/shop, or you could DM me. I do DMV deliveries. Drop-offs are always available, so let me know.
Jack's Consulting Services, business solutions for all industries, tailored solutions to fit any size. Check us out on the web, www.jax-consulting.com. Set up a free consultation and see how we can tailor our solutions to your needs. That's www.jax-consulting.com. We can't wait to see you. Hi, guys. We are back, and I'm bringing back my friend Jenny. We're having some great conversation. Hey, Jenny.
Hey.
I
Woo.
appreciate you. I just want to say that out loud again. I just appreciate you for many reasons.
Yay. Awesome.
So
So,
let's
what do you want to
let's
get into now?
here's a little bit. Yeah, I want to talk a little bit about with whatever you're comfortable about. You mentioned a little bit before, and we even talked about it in your bio, that you overcame sexual assault. What, and
Mm,
again, with whatever you're comfortable sharing, I want to talk a little bit about that and kind of weave into it how that has also helped you with what you're doing with the coaching.
okay. So as a child, I was molested in the woods behind our house by a neighborhood kid. Um, Over the years, it has gotten discussed in therapy, but for many years before that, I just kind of carried that. I didn't talk about it. It was something like we didn't talk about when we were kids. It happened again and again, actually, as a child with other neighborhood boys, friends' older brothers. And then eventually I was raped in a relationship in my early 20s,
Mm,
and none of it was reported.
mm,
Um, I have had therapists tell me, you can report it, like, you still can. And I'm like, no, I'm good. Uh, what I found out doing this kind of work is that a lot of us who got into the sexuality professions and the pleasure professions have had these experiences. It's
Mm,
weird. It's like a 50-50 split of people who either had really, really healthy sexual examples, like from their parents being very open and talking about these things, or people who have endured some sort of assault, rape, you know, uh, violence.
mhm,
And yeah, now we're trying to help others heal without so much resistance as we had. Does that make sense?
absolutely. Absolutely. Trying to break down that wall of, okay, if you're going to talk about it, just talk about it quietly. Like
Yeah.
that sort of thing. Like,
Yeah. Like we had some weird family stuff happening when I was a kid, and I got the message, don't talk about things that happen in this house, or don't talk about things that are unpleasant outside of this house, right? That messaging kind of got ingrained in me around the same time that I got molested the first time.
mm,
So I connected the two. Now, if I had gone to my parents and told them what had happened, I'm pretty sure my dad would have killed someone, you know?
hmm yeah.
Like, I'm pretty sure my mom would have been the first one on the phone with the police.
Hmm
But I felt like it was my fault. I felt
hmm
like I had somehow started it,
mm,
like that it was my doing. And also learning about sex coaching, sex therapy, all of that. That's really common to think that you somehow incited it and to experience this shame about the experience happening that you're just like, I just want to push it away. So, my way of dealing with it in high school was to get drunk a lot.
mm, mm,
And that continued for many years.
mm.
Um,
So
so
let me
that's what I
ask you
want to
something,
help
Jenny,
people with. Mhm.
because I'm curious if others share the same sentiment with you. Those who blame themselves. Do you feel like there was something specific, like in your mind, was it something specific? Oh, if I hadn't worn green that day, this wouldn't have happened. Or was it not necessarily something specific that you feel that you did, that it was your fault, that you incited it, but you just felt that way innately?
I think it was the person who did it the first time whispering to me, "You like this." And my
Mm,
body having reaction that I
understand.
was not ready for or didn't
Understand.
understand why it happened, and that happens a lot. Like, a lot
Okay.
of people who are getting assaulted, they'll get wet or they might have orgasm because their body and their mind are incongruent.
Okay.
So, yeah, I think that was where it came from me.
Okay. Got you. And I'm sure there's so many others that again share that same thought, that same feeling.
Mhm.
But it's always for me, I've always been curious when I hear someone say, "Man, but I felt like it was my fault." And I always wonder, was there a specific why? That's why I asked you that question.
Mhm.
Mhm.
Yeah. It really does depend on the person,
It's true.
uh, their upbringing,
Mm.
uh, their societal norms,
Yeah. Sure.
um, and their age at the first incident plays a big part too, because a lot of women will think, "Oh, well, I was drinking at a party. I shouldn't have been. I was wearing that dress that was kinda slutty." And I want you to know, whatever it is that you think that you did, it's not your fault.
Mm. It's not your fault.
Yeah, none of it. None of it.
Hmm
Okay?
hmm
That was someone who totally took advantage, hurt you beyond your consent, beyond your
hmm
control. Not your fault. I don't care what the fuck you were wearing. I don't care if you were wearing nothing.
hmm
Not your
hmm
fault.
Absolutely. Absolutely. No, that's. I appreciate you sharing that. So talk to me about how you are weaving this into your coaching the most. Like, are you using, like, if you're sitting with someone and you're having these conversations, are you using examples from your own experience, or like how do you do that? Talk a little bit about how your coaching sessions go.
So, in coaching, it hasn't come up that much because I haven't had clients who have experienced that for coaching, more for
Okay.
cuddling, actually. For my cuddle
Interesting.
clients who just need someone to touch them in a way that is safe. So it actually could start out with just as simple as being in the same room with someone
Mm-hmm.
and not feeling completely tense.
Mm-hmm.
Um, Sitting on the bed next to each other and like allowing our arms to brush up against each other and then moving through that being okay to like a full on arms wrapped around each other and saying constantly, "Are you okay with this? Would you
Mm-hmm.
like to move forward or would you like to pull back?
Mm-hmm.
Does this still feel good?" You're always allowed to say, "I don't like this anymore."
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And kind of
You have
rewiring your
a
brain.
choice.
Yes, yes. Existing in choice. That's an
Mm-hmm.
excellent place, right?
Mm-hmm. I love that. I love that. So, what
So
do you
for the
feel
coaching
like?
part, I don't oh, sorry.
No, you're probably about to get into what I was about to ask. Go ahead.
For the coaching part, it has been mostly couples who are trying to work on a specific issue. And if they do come in with a component where someone has experienced sexual assault, let it be like, molestation when they were a child, rape as a child or an adult, what have you, I generally try to get them to see someone who is a licensed clinician, a therapist,
Sure. Okay.
because what I want to talk to them about are specific goals and like finite situations. That is something that has stretched on for years for most people. That is something that there's probably going to need to be some intensive talk therapy surrounding. And I am not a person who is going to be like, yeah, I'm your gal. Yeah, I can do whatever you want. You know what I mean?
Gotcha.
You got to know your role when
Mm-hmm.
it comes to helping in these situations.
Mm-hmm.
So if somebody has like a traumatic past like that, most likely I know a lot of the certified sex therapists in this area, and I know exactly who I think people would be a good fit for. So
Okay.
that's generally when I refer out.
Okay. No, and that makes perfect sense to me. How long do your sessions last? And do you have like, okay, I'm going to see you for 5 sessions, or like is there a set number of times? Like how does that work?
Right? So, what's cool about sex coaching? Well, okay, what's cool and what's also a little annoying from a financial standpoint is that it works quickly. So, most of the time, I will have like a free consult call with people, and that can go anywhere from like 15 to 30 minutes. I like to do it on Zoom just so I can kind of check in with your body language a little bit. Over
Mm,
the phone gets a little dicey because I don't know if you're like holding your breath, putting your eyes down. I want to see those signs that you're like ashamed or worried about a certain part of your sexual nature.
okay.
Um, so I like to do Zoom. And then when we do have a session, a lot of times people can be done within like 1 to 6 sessions.
Oh,
So
okay.
I just do it session by session. I don't really throw out packages. I used
Okay.
to, and I was like, this is silly because people would be fine or like ready to move on and just practice the things that we've worked on by themselves or with the partner or partners
Mm-hmm.
after like 4. And I was like, well, do I just like refund people? Like, what am I doing here? So
Got you. Got
I
you.
decided, look, we're gonna figure out in that 15 to 30 minutes, what is your goal? What have you tried that didn't work? What brought you here?
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
And so
So you
let's
don't even have a minimum, like
nope.
minimum 2 sessions. Okay.
No.
Gotcha.
No. If I think that we can get you one and done, I will because it's all
Okay.
about the healing,
Okay.
you know?
That's pretty cool.
Yeah. So I can give you an example. Like someone who is anorgasmic except if they are alone. So like a woman who's never had an orgasm with someone else in the room.
Mm, that's a
Okay?
thing?
Yes.
Oh, gosh.
Yeah. I
Hmm.
know. I know. It sucks, and it sucks how
Yeah.
much it is actually pretty common.
Oh,
Um Also women who have never masturbated. Never.
okay. Mm.
Yeah. So masturbation is like my favorite thing in the world. Um Sex for One by Dr. Betty Dodson is like one of my favorite books in the world. Dr. Betty Dodson created Body Sex, which was it was like these retreats that women would go on and like learn how to use a vibrator and this insert called a barbell that she created to like use your PC muscles to hold that in while you're using the vibrator. And you would have this whole day where you like sat around naked with all these other women, and you would like hold a mirror and like finally really examine your vulva. That's like the outer part. She would like point to different parts that were so interesting and cool. And she's passed away now, but
Mm.
I just love everything that she did for the world. Um, High vagina energy. Yes, yes. So she would show you how your vulva was cool, and like seriously, we don't do that. Like women don't get to do that. Like there's nowhere that
Mm.
you're going to be out in public that you're going to be like, "Oh, look, your labia is longer on that side. That's really cool." You know?
Right, right,
You
right.
know? Like they're
I
not
was just in
just
the gym
swinging
locker
around.
room.
Yeah. They're not just out there swinging around for other people to
Yes,
look at.
yes.
So this is a place to like normalize that no, they all do not look like what you might see in porn,
Hmm.
and yours is beautiful in its own way. You
Hmm.
have to be able to look at it. It's cool. It's part of you. It's a big part of you. It's where your energy
And
comes from.
that also debunks the all pussy's the same myth, right? Because, and
Right.
it's funny because I was thinking about this a couple of days ago, and I can't remember what triggered the thought, but I remember a friend saying that years ago, saying that, oh, men, they don't care, it's all the same. And I thought to myself, but how could it all be the same? All dicks aren't the same. Every
Mm-mm.
penis isn't the same, and that's the joy of it, right? Because they're not all the
Mm-hmm.
same. Some are long, some are skinny, some are hooked, some aren't. Like, so
Right.
why would all vaginas be the same?
Right.
Like,
Yeah.
so it kind of debunks her doing that, her writing that book
Mm-hmm.
and having those, like, that debunks the myth that it's all the same. Because,
Right.
like you said,
Right.
you can't see it. You can't walk into a locker room and just randomly see it like you can with a guy.
Right. Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. And like guys,
This is
whether or not
cool.
they are consciously doing it or talking about it, they are looking and comparing, right? And they have that freedom to look and compare
Mhm.
and be like, "Ooh, mine's got some bumps on it that maybe shit, those shouldn't be there. I should go get checked that out," you know?
Yeah.
Or oh, theirs looks different than mine, but mine's bigger. Da 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 da. You know, they have that option
Yeah.
to compare.
Yeah.
You don't get that, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Like it is rare, I think, in most circumstances, if you're not like a sex coach, you're not walking around looking at vulvas. I don't know. Like it's not happening.
Or a
So
gynecologist, maybe. Maybe that's the next
yeah,
closest.
right. But are gynecologists going around telling their patients, like, you have lovely drapes here? Oh my God, look how they
Right.
unfurl. You know, they're not saying that shit. They're like, past the speculum. And then, and you're in and out of there after they juggle your tits in like, what, 2 minutes? So, they're not teaching you vulva appreciation
Absolutely
skills or
not.
anything.
Absolutely
So,
not.
if anything, they're shocking the hell out of your vagina with cold duck lips shoved there? So,
Yes. Yes.
anyway.
Listen, that's another
Sorry to
episode.
any gynecologist I work with. Yeah, sorry. Not to insult your entire profession. But anyway, so that is a big part. Like, okay, and just being able to tell people the right words for things.
Mm. Mm.
Okay? So like the outside of your vagina is your vulva. All the outside genitalia is your vulva. Your vagina is just that path,
Mhm.
that inside.
Mhm.
Um then the clitoris not being just that little bean on the
Mhm.
top, but that it wraps down and there are bulbs to the
Mhm.
clitoris inside underneath your labia majora. Like
Mhm.
giving women that language, giving them that idea, like that roadmap of where their pleasure centers are, that changes things. And it can change
Yeah.
things, like I said, in 1 hour long session. Like
Got
if
you.
you don't know where you should be targeting, or if you don't know that actually holding your breath keeps you from having fantastic orgasms. Like a lot of people think going like that is what makes an orgasm great. No, it's breathing through that shit
Mhm.
that
Mhm.
makes it amazing.
Mhm. Mhm.
That's when you can start squirting, honey.
Yeah.
So let's figure that shit out, you
Mhm.
know?
Mhm. And
Yeah.
and how often is that talked about or taught or any of that? Like you said, even the parts, right? I remember, what grade were we in, Jenny? Was it fifth grade or sixth grade? Fifth
I
grade?
think when we got like the little pink pamphlet.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
And they showed you, like, it was like a little diagram, and it had like
Right.
the
It was like all
line with
about
the
your
hole.
fallopian
This is
tubes.
where it is. But that was it. That's where it
Right.
stopped.
And it was like, you might experience some hormone anger. You
Yeah.
might experience
Yes.
some mood swings.
Yes.
Some
Yes.
mood swings before your menses. Yeah.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It was very clinical.
And that was
There's
it.
nothing in sex ed. Like, okay, and so here's the other part of it. Like being a sex coach is being a sex educator. And there is nothing in schools about pleasure, about consent. Well, okay, they get into consent a little bit now,
Yeah. Later
but they
on.
use it as like this blanket term, like you have to give consent. And that's all they say. Like they don't talk about how consent can be fucking revoked. It can be taken back,
Yeah.
you know?
Absolutely.
Yeah,
At
I
any
was
time.
really into anal when we first got together, but now I don't feel that way because I pressed out a couple of kids and I can't stop getting hemorrhoids and I don't want to do anal anymore. I don't care how much lube you use. Stay away
Right.
from my butthole. You know, like
Right.
that can change over the course of a
Absolutely.
relationship. And that should not be met with someone getting angry at you
Mhm.
for withdrawing that consent. And then you have to renegotiate what your sexual yeses and nos are,
Mhm.
what
And you
your
have to renegotiate
relationship
them for
yeses and
yourself.
nos. Yes.
Mhm.
So like, and you shouldn't have pressure. You should not feel pressure to change your boundaries, to change your yeses and nos. That's the shit that we did not get taught, and it's
No.
still not getting taught.
No.
Yeah, it's still,
No.
and okay, I have to look up the specific statistic, but I'm pretty sure it's something like only 25 states have any kind of sex ed. Not kidding.
Hmm.
And only, I think 9 of them have to be medically correct. I'll have to look it up. I will look it up, I promise.
Listen, I'm gonna tell you what kind
Mhm.
of tickles me is that everything is so sensitive nowadays. So now it's not called sex ed. So my third grader came home with a little, you know, paper, and it's called Family Life.
Oh, for heaven's sake.
You know, is he allowed to take family life classes? And I'm like,
Mhm.
yeah, you know,
Mhm.
let's get the word out. And then a
Right?
few months later, he came home with this little mini travel thing of Old Spice deodorant. I was like, y'all don't got Dove? Like the Old Spice? Like for my third grader?
For a 3rd grader. Amazing.
but and all I can think of is my granddad. My granddad used to wear
Oh my
Old
god.
Spice cologne, and I just like I can, even now talking about it, I can smell it, right?
Mhm.
But I'm like, you gave my third grader Old Spice. But the point is, now it's not sex ed; it's family life, and I truly believe that they veer away from even what we were taught, and we weren't taught that much. Let's just say what it is.
Well, okay, but you're in Virginia, right?
I'm in Virginia.
Right. So I'm still in Maryland. You know, there's that party line kind of shit that we're not going to get into. But I'm just saying, like, it is very state dependent what you're going to
Mm,
learn and what it's going to
mm.
be called. Like you get in the middle of the country, you're not going to learn shit. You're not going to learn shit. You're going to learn that you should keep your legs shut and be supportive of the men in your family not raping everybody. That's what you should do
Oh, okay. That's
because it's a lot of
cut and dry.
religious based education. Yeah. And not happy religious based education.
Mm.
So yeah, we don't want to get too far into that side of it because I have lots of things to say. Um, but a lot of the people, we'll get into that part of it. A lot of the people who have come to me and a lot of the people who I've been interviewing lately for
Mhm.
Storytime, my podcast, have escaped some sort of religious oppression
Oh,
that
wow.
totally did not help with any of this
Mm.
because it taught them to be subservient. It taught them you're supposed to give your body over to God and any man who wants it.
Well, there that is.
Yeah. So, and that you are shameful if you have any desires of your own. Um,
As women, you're
and
saying.
that if you, right, yes. And that if you do anything or if you inspire a man to do anything to you, you are the devil.
Oh,
Yeah. Hmm. Yeah.
well, there that is.
Yeah. So that all plays into it. And that all plays into why sex ed or family life is so shittily taught. Um,
Yeah.
and it is very much a ugh. Yeah, it's a hard one. We can't talk about it too much without getting into the things behind it that
Sure.
create these systems.
Sure.
So
Sure.
um but I do know that what I'm trying to do, and there's actually a couple of other sex educators out there who work specifically with families, like we're trying to fill in the gaps of what your kids
Okay.
didn't learn and what you don't feel comfortable talking to your kids about. So here we
Yeah.
are, and I can give you those resources because they're pretty phenomenal.
Okay. And see, that's
Yeah.
that's good because again, going back to how we were raised, our generation, there's just certain things you didn't talk about, you know,
Hmm.
or you talked very, very like the bare basic, so everybody
Hmm.
knew where we were, and that was the end of it. There was no deep conversation about stuff. So a lot of stuff that we learned, we didn't learn because mama sat us down, daddy sat us down. We
Mm-mm.
learned sneaking watching HBO in the middle of the night.
Right?
Listen to our friends
Yeah.
lie because they had older brothers and sisters
Yes.
that they may have seen some things,
Yes.
right?
Yes.
Or
Yes.
just kind of figuring it out as we got there type thing. And
Hmm.
so you're right. There's, in my opinion, at least, I can't prove it, but I feel like there is a lot of need for filling in gaps where kids, teenagers, young adults can feel comfortable asking some questions. Like, I'm gonna be straight up.
Hmm.
My parents, my parents were married. My dad was the first guy my mom was ever with. Blah 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 blah
Hmm.
blah. Now that we're talking about this, I wonder if my mom ever had an orgasm. You know, I wonder
Hmm.
if she. I very heavily doubt that her mom had these conversations with her. You know, my grandma.
Right.
And you know what I mean? Like, there's this whole
Hmm.
history that you just
We don't talk about Bruno. You
we
know.
don't talk about Bruno,
No,
Jenny.
no. Mm-mm. Like,
Yeah.
so what's interesting to me is that I know because one, I was a nosy ass kid, and two, because later in life, when my mom had Alzheimer's, she thought I was her sister, so started talking to me as I was her sister. And if you've had anyone in your life with dementia, you know that they say, go ahead, play along, don't jar them out of where they think they are. That's not
Mhm.
helpful. So I didn't. And so, what I knew from when I was little that I found some correspondence in the trash and looked at it. My parents were swingers before they had kids.
Wow.
And I didn't really understand what it meant. I remember taking this letter to my sister and being like, what does this mean? And she was 9 years older than me. And she was like, where'd you get this? I said, Dad's trash can. She said, put it back. That was the end of that conversation. That was 1986 style there, right?
Shout out to
We
Big
got
Sis.
yeah. Shh, I tell you later. How much later? Don't worry about it. So, years later, my mom is telling me all about my dad and her and their encounters in swinging in the 70s. I mean, legit, my dad was 50, my mom was 28, and he thought that she couldn't get pregnant. So what the hell? Like, and it was the 70s. I mean,
And
come
it was
on.
the 70s.
He had already had his kids. Like, he had 2 kids from his first marriage. She said that she couldn't get pregnant. He was like, let's do it. Here we go. Nah. So apparently they were big fucking swingers. We found more evidence of this as we were cleaning out the house. Like, we had to break into the safe down in the basement, and inside it, completely rotted and moldy, otherwise I would have kept them, were shoe boxes full of correspondence between them and the people who they had encounters with in the 70s, because that's how you did it then.
Wow.
You answered an ad in the
Yep.
back of a magazine, and that's how you found people.
Mm-hmm.
So I come from this long line of freaks, right? But I didn't get any extra talking to about sex. I had an extensive porn collection that I could break into,
But that was it.
When I talked to my mom about sex, like when I wanted to go on birth control, it was because of acne, actually. It wasn't because I was having a bunch of sex, because I was like the head queen in high school. I didn't have sex with anybody until we were done with high school. I just gave a lot of head and honed my skills. So
Jeni,
that was that. But in high school, I remember asking her, like, do you want to tell me anything about sex? She was like, well, let's see. You should probably wait, because it can have things happen that like you're not ready for. And it smells bad sometimes.
that's what she said.
That's what she said. That was my sex talk.
Okay, Jeni, I can totally see her saying that. I can totally imagine this conversation
table.
at the kitchen. I was thinking in the kitchen,
just sitting at the kitchen table, paying some bills or something, just hardly looking up. Yep. Now, when she had Alzheimer's and thought I was her sister, I got all sorts of tales about my dad and his prowess, and, how many different people they had in our house, and, how many times and what have you. So it was, I mean,
finding out, like,
it was
do I
actually,
know?
I know,
No, I don't.
but it was actually really cool. No, it was really cool, because it wouldn't have happened otherwise.
Yeah.
Like, it was a nice way that I get to preserve that part of her being. And it's something I've been thinking about a lot lately with the next course that I want to create, is creating something about the sexual identity of mom. Not my mom specifically, but like mom. As a sexual identity. Because the women I've been working with lately are either going through perimenopause or menopause. They have had children, either by adoption, by having stepchildren, by having them from their own bodies. They're all experiencing a lot of weird shit, and a lot of them have not been having great sex for many years. And that, to me, is terrible.
Yeah.
Someone told them past a certain age, you don't need to worry about that. That doesn't have to be part of your life. And they are not old for the world. They are in their 40s and 50s.
Oh my gosh.
And I think that is fucking terrible. Now, I will put a caveat on that. If you had been forced, or if you thought that society rules were you had to be either, in these binary friggin' categories of like, I'm either into men or I'm either into women. Like, I have to have sex with someone, for many years. And then now, with things kind of broadening and those definitions kind of falling, now you're like, I actually have zero interest in sex and I never have. I'm more asexual.
Mm.
If that's where you are, if it's not because of a hormone deficiency, it's not because you're simply not attracted to your partner anymore. It's just you're feeling like I have always been asexual and I'm not interested in this, then I want you to honor that.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's different
But
than what
that's
I'm talking
about
about.
learning and knowing who you are.
Mhm,
Because I wonder how many people are having that feeling and they think,
mhm.
oh, it's something wrong with me. Oh, it's because I'm this age. Oh, it's because of this thing or that thing. And not, maybe I'm asexual.
Yeah. I had a couple clients who, after we worked for a few sessions, and they were like, they kept trying to, they're like, well, why can't I be attracted to him? He hasn't changed that much. Nothing's changed that much. The kids are out of the house now. Like, we have time now. We have availability now. No one's knocking on the door or not knocking on the door and just walking in. And I just can't bring myself to do it. I can't get myself to do it. I can't make myself do it. To them, I recommend Emily Nagoski and her book Come As You Are or Come Together. I love both of them. Um, and I say, are you really wanting this? Like, is this your desire to do these things? Or were you never? Like,
Wow.
explore that. Allow
Yeah.
yourself to explore that because it's totally fucking valid.
Mm-hmm.
You can totally be asexual. You don't have to. You don't have to want sex. Me, I'm a horn dog. I get it. But like if you're not, then you don't have to, honey lamb. And
Yeah.
there are options. I'm
Yeah.
sorry, but there are. You could find a sexual partner who is just as asexual as you. If you're in a relationship already and there's a sex expectation, then you can talk to them about maybe becoming non-monogamous.
Mm-hmm.
You can talk to them about the idea of maybe some mutual masturbation. Maybe
Mm-hmm.
that's enough, you
Mm-hmm.
know? You could also talk to them about getting a surrogate partner. I know lots of them all across the country. They've been trained to do these things.
Mm-hmm.
There's also people who do full service sex work. You could go that route. I
Mm-hmm.
just want people to know that there are options. But this whole idea that hit me a few weeks ago about like the sexual identity of mom came from me, because it controls when you have availability. It
Mm.
controls when you have the spoons, you know? It controls when you're allowed to let your desire come out
Mm-hmm.
because you could be so ready and it's 2:00 and it's time to go wait for the kids.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So are you just
Right.
supposed to deny yourself or can you rub one out real quick, then go pick up the kids? And then if that makes it so that you're not up for it with your partner later, well, shit happens. I got off. You,
Bumper
you
sticker.
have hands. Yeah, you have hands. I know you do. Yeah. So yeah, so those are things that have come up lately. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Do you feel like you've found your spot? Do you feel like you found your place in this?
So I am about to jump in to more of it. Like, I'm going back
Yeah.
to school. That's happening. But it's the social work degree. It's not like a sexual social worker degree. I don't know if there is one.
I got you. I got you.
um, I think Widener University might have one that's like part master in public health and part master in social work.
Okay.
But I'm not in PA, so I'm not going there. So I think that everything that has happened so far has gotten me here for the sole purpose of being here. Yeah, actually, yeah, I do. Damn, nobody's asked me that yet, Amanda.
We have a
Put
deep
me on
connection, Jenny.
the spot. I know, but yeah, I do. I think I'm here to let pussy havers know that they deserve pleasure, like more so than men. Yeah, I
Well, because
do.
men are
The
gonna
clitoris.
get their pleasure when and where they want it anyway. We're as women the ones who have to figure it out. Like you said, just as a
Right.
small, tiny example. Oh shoot, it's time to go pick up sport from school, or oh, now I gotta get them up and get them ready for school, or just whatever thing. Or I'm taking care of mom. I'm the caregiver for sis because she doesn't have anybody. Whatever the thing is,
Mm-hmm.
we always have to put our things, and not even just in the sexual realm, just in general as women, we always have to put our stuff on the back
Pleasure
burner for
in
everybody
general.
else. In
Mm-hmm.
general,
Mm-hmm.
I put out a clip a few days ago. If something is burning on your mind super hard, just freaking take the leap. Book the trip, even if it's by yourself. Start the
Mm-hmm.
podcast. Start the bit, whatever that thing is, because we are living in a place where we are legit on borrowed time. And as I get older, I understand that cliche saying more and more. And it's
Mm-hmm.
very true. And for women, especially, I'm not saying men don't deserve it, because listen, but I'm speaking right now specifically for women. We always back burner things to make sure everybody else is straight. And coming back full circle, that includes our sexual life. Like, period.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. What I was gonna say is the clitoris is the only body part that is designed completely for pleasure. That is its only purpose, and women are the ones that have it. So
Mm, that part.
we should use it.
Why not?
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. We should get to know it intimately. And if you need an ally for that, I know where to find one.
I freaking love it. I mean, what more could you ask for?
Mm-hmm.
And listen, if you are listening to this podcast, if you are watching this and something is striking a chord, raise your freaking hand. Speak up. Because women talk about, I want to have a episode about this specifically in the near future. I was talking to my brother and I said to him, why is it that women do certain things or can do certain things that men don't do or can't do? Is it because of societal norms? But naturally, men want to do it just as much as women. And one of the examples I used was women go on a trip, oh, we're going on a girls' trip. We're going to Miami. We're going to Puerto Rico, whatever. No, we're all going to just share a room together. We don't give a fuck. We're walking around naked around each other in the shower. One's in the shower, one's brushing their teeth. We don't give a fuck about that. Do you hear about men doing that? Do you hear about men going on four guys going on a guy's trip, and they're in one room sharing two king size beds or whatever the hell, and
Mm-hmm.
right?
No.
And I say that to say, using that example, I say that to say there are just certain norms on both sides that I wonder if they are truly norms based on our nature or norms based on societal push. I won't even say beliefs. I'll
Oh,
say push.
I think it's totally patriarchal bullshit.
Yeah.
I absolutely do. I think that it is conditioning, and I think that it is being told that that's gay for guys.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that it is being told like you're not a man if you do that. I think that the way that they're taught very early on, like not to share a bed, share space with other boys or men, and it's fine for us. Like sleepover, pile 6 girls onto the pullout couch,
Exactly.
right? Yeah,
Exactly.
right. Like boys get conditioned very early. No, 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 no. You don't do that. You don't do that.
Mm-hmm.
No, no,
Mm-hmm.
no. We
Right.
don't have
In that
slumber
same
parties. What
setting,
are you talking about?
even if there was, it's everybody has their own sleeping bags and you're 6 feet apart. Like it's.
Yes. 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 Right.
Mm-hmm.
That's why, like, to bring it again full circle, like professional cuddling for men is so important because they've been
Mm.
conditioned for years not to experience touch unless it is romantic or hugging your mother.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. Right.
Sexual, romantic, hug your mother. That's it.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Or grandma.
Mhm. Right. But even with their own
True.
kids, like a lot of them are standoffish.
Mm-hmm. Especially as
So,
the children get to a certain age, and
mhm,
especially if it's I have a son versus I have a daughter. Like there's all these different variables. Okay, if you're a man and you're this age and you have a daughter and you have a son, but he's this age, but like there's so many. Like how do you freaking keep up with that crap?
Right, right. And then we wonder why they're not emotionally available for us.
Yeah.
You know?
I'm you're just triggering thoughts in my mind because I think about my husband and his dad. I always joke like he worships the ground his dad walks on. He worships the ground his dad shits on. Okay, he loves his dad, and that's one of those things, especially with my culture specifically, where you like to see that. You like to see that father son bond and relationship, and they. All right, love you, hug each other. Hey, old man, kiss on the forehead, that sort of thing. So it takes it back to your point that it's the difference between what's natural and what's societal. That it takes it back to that very point. And he has a sister, and it's his dad is the same way with his sister as he is with him. Like there is no difference of hugging just because you're my son versus you're my daughter. Obviously, there's those things that are natural, that they are treated differently. My princess, my only girl, that kind of. But that's, in my opinion, that's natural, that's normal. But yeah, back to your point, that's proof in the pudding. That one situation that's a natural thing versus what society says.
Right.
It's crazy when you think about it. It really is. Like when you really deep dive into it. Like I said, I want to do an episode about that in the near future because there's so many different viewpoints and variations of how that works. And when we're talking about someone who calls up Jeni and says, I need a cuddle session therapy, and there's unpacking of the how we got there, there's got to be some conversations about, well, for me, I grew up in a house like this because of that, and because how he grew up and they grew up, da 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 da. That's wild.
It is
that's wild.
absolutely generational, and it is very, very specific to what your gendered expectations were.
Certainly.
And it definitely makes it makes for interesting partners, and it makes me appreciate all the sex workers out there who are helping mold men who have more emotional availability. I hate it when people will talk crap about sex workers and use all these derogatory terms for them, and not understand the work that they're doing is like helping to mold men who will then get on these dating sites and be better men for you. Just saying.
Well, again, society dictates a lot of things, and one wrong interpretation that gets spread like wildfire now creates a culture of this is what this means. So that's when you say this particular term, it means that bad.
Right.
Without anybody doing their own research, their own digging, their own findings.
But things like this, and I'm serious, if you are looking for somebody to talk to about that, I highly recommend Courtney Brame. He's the guy who created Something Positive for Positive People, which is a organization, a 501c3 nonprofit to help people who are suffering with herpes and to help lower the stigmatization of that. Now he's gone on this other path of men's emotional wellness, and he just did his first men's emotional wellness symposium and had all these other strong Black men who know how to talk about this shit on there, and it was amazing. I don't know how else to explain it, and he's just Courtney is so in it to win it to change. Like he is out there to change things for the better. So yeah, I got to connect you to
Courtney Brame.
Courtney Brame, Brame.
I love
and it's spfpp.org, Something Positive for Positive People. He's got a podcast. I think it's got like 400 episodes now.
That's awesome.
Yeah, and he started out just kind of interviewing people so they had somewhere to talk about this.
Yeah.
And then he created his nonprofit to help fund like counseling for them and things
Yeah.
like that. Yeah.
Wow. I love that.
Yeah. So these are the
Courtney, be looking out for me because I'm a
people who
contact
I
you, Courtney.
find. Right? That's right. So these are the people that, I've gotten the opportunity because of Shaw, because of getting on this intimacy professionals call through Michelle Renee, who was my mentor through Cuddlist. Getting to just go to like sexology summits and sex conferences. Like those are things. What? Those are things. No way. But because I got to hear all of this and I was like, oh crap, I'm like the 1 to 5% of the country or world that knows about these people. That was what made me go full force into, okay, the podcast is now less solo episodes. It is more me interviewing these people, because Story Time with the Intimacy Ally needs to become the podcast where you get to meet sex workers, surrogate partners, licensed therapists, professors, people who do like forensic sex work, like all of this stuff that no one else is hearing about. And Courtney's been on there twice because he keeps doing cool shit. And I'm like, I'm going to have a special episode where you get to tell everybody the cool shit you're doing. So these are the things that people need to know. These other modalities, these things beyond the norm that can really, really speed along, that can really, really impact your quality of life. I know that sounds like so clinical to say that, but an orgasm a day keeps a whole lot of doctors away. I will tell you that right now. And if you're not comfortable giving them to yourself or directing somebody like an air traffic controller on how you like to have them with them in the room, then I want to help you.
I freaking love it. Jeni, this has been such a great conversation. I want to know, do you have anything at all that you want to share with the audience, leave them with advice wise, that could enhance their relationships, their own wellness, even? Any advice you want to leave the audience with?
For yourself, explore your body. You are your body. It is not a thing that is there to defy you. Whether it is a big body, a different color body, a short body, a fat body, a tall body, a skinny body, a broken, as people like to say, body. It is you. You have to accept that and then go ahead and get real comfortable with her. Go ahead. If you can look at yourself in the mirror, fully clothed, and find one thing that you like about yourself when you're feeling down, you are already on the way. It could be your eyelashes. Your eyelashes, boo. If that's what's doing it for you today, just say out loud, my eyelashes look banging today, and then see how much better you feel that day. And the other thing is communicate. Communicate honestly. You don't have to be brutal. You don't have to be mean, but honest communication. If you are in relationship with a partner, with several partners, whatever it is, communicate. And if you don't feel safe communicating, then talk about why you don't feel safe communicating. And then beyond that, I have books. Do you want to share? Do you want me to share the books?
Please, yes. I want you to share your socials, your websites, anything you have.
Okay. All right. So these are not books that I wrote. So I'm just sharing these because I feel like every vulva owner should read these books. That's just how I feel. The Body is Not an Apology by Sonia Renee Taylor is fucking amazing. And I will send you all this. If you want to stick them in the show notes, I'll send you links. It's fine.
Okay, that'd be great.
Pleasure Activism by Adrienne Marie Brown. Her name is purposefully by her, all in lowercase letters, so it's not a mistype. Becoming Clitorate by Lori Mintz, who is fucking hilarious. Sex for One by Dr. Betty Dodson. And Come As You Are by Dr. Emily Nagoski. and It's Not Hysteria by Dr. Karen Tang.
I love this.
These are the books. These are the books
Yes.
that I say, please, please, please read them. Know that what you're going through is totally normal,
Mhm.
and know that if you are experiencing some kind of shame or you're just not having a good time where it comes to sex, it is not your fault.
Mhm. It is
We've
not
had
your
some
fault.
patriarchal conditioning. It is not your fault.
Mhm.
Let's figure it out, you know?
Yeah, I
All right.
love it.
And then for finding me, my website is theintimacyally.com. You can follow me on socials at The Intimacy Ally. If you liked what you heard, come listen to my podcast so you can meet all these cool characters that I have on there.
Yes, yes.
It is called Story Time with the Intimacy Ally, and it's available on all the platforms and stuff. And sometimes I remember to get the video part up on YouTube. Whoops.
Sometimes.
Sometimes. Yeah. Getting there. Yeah.
That's great. I appreciate this. I appreciate you. I want to ask you one more thing. I would like for you to tell our audience one of two things: either your greatest joy or your favorite quote and why it's your favorite quote.
Hmm. I'm going to say my greatest joy is knowing that my daughter is coming up in a house that she knows she can talk to me about any fucking thing.
I love
Yeah.
it. I love it. That's special. That's
Mhm.
special. Jenny, you have been the most gracious guest, and I want to have you on the show again. So if I make that
I'm surprised.
call,
I just can't stop babbling. You don't want me back here.
please. Listen, we're talking about stuff that people want to talk about but aren't talking about, or to your point, don't know that there's things to talk about in a particular area. Like, like I said,
Right?
I come to this like colorless. That's a thing. Like I'm this is good stuff. That's the point
All
I'm
right.
making. This is good stuff. And I love you. You are so great. Thank you for everything. Thank you, thank you,
Oh,
thank you.
all right. I love you too. Don't
Can I
make me
get you to
cry.
no crying? There's no crying in baseball.
Okay.
Can I
It's
get you
right
to
up there for
stay
those
on?
quotes,
Yes, definitely. And I got a good one too today. I got a good one.
right?
I'm gonna ask you to stay with me for just a few moments while I close out, if you don't mind.
Okay.
Cool, 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 cool. Everyone, Miss Jeni Simas-Layte, the Intimacy
Mhm.
Ally. Thank you so much.
Bye.
All right. Great episode. That was such a great episode. I'm so glad that Jeni agreed to do this. She's such a good friend, such a good person in general. And you can see the passion while she was talking. You can see it, you can hear it, you can feel it. She's passionate about the things she's passionate about. So I'm glad to have had her. I want to leave you guys with a few things. First things first, like, follow, subscribe, tell your friends, tell your neighbors, tell everybody, okay? Life Uncensored, www.life-uncensored.com. I'm on Facebook, Spotify, YouTube, Instagram, and LinkedIn. Life Uncensored Live, okay? Look us up, check us out, like, follow, subscribe, share, all that good stuff. We had a contest a couple of weeks ago where those who followed on my Instagram page were entered to win some free merch from us. And I'm going to announce that winner of the free merch. It's country_bones. Country_bones. You are the winner. Congratulations. To retrieve your merch, simply shoot me an email at connect@life-uncensored.com. So country_bones, an Instagram follower. Email connect@life-uncensored.com to retrieve your free merch. And thank you for following. Everybody continue to subscribe, share, like, follow, all that good stuff. Um, Our next episode is going to be a friend of mine, Daya Shakur. He is a published author, and I'm excited to talk to him. He is a bowl full of laughs and fun, so you'll want to stay tuned for that. Um, the last thing I'll leave you with is our quote of the day. Our quote of today comes from Joyce Brothers. And some of you from my generation and before know exactly who I'm talking about, Dr. Joyce Brothers. The quote is, "Success is a state of mind. If you want success, start thinking of yourself as a success." That's big. I want you all to start thinking of yourself as a success if you want to be successful. All right? In the meantime, stay hydrated, stay peaceful, and do something kind for someone. You never know, it might help change the world. See you guys.